Cool. Here we are. Rich from Pre-T Graduate introducing Mr. Ish Cheyne. Thank you so much for your time today, Ish. I know you're a busy man, even though we're on a weekend break. So, you know, time is precious and I really appreciate it. So thanks for joining me today.
No worries.
I've got a few things here and it's taking up an entire Post-it note and that probably doesn't cover all of it, but you're obviously head of fitness at Les Mills. You've been in the industry for a good 25 years plus, so I'm sure there is lots of gems that we can get from you today. Are you still on the board of Exercise New Zealand? Is that?
Yes, on the board, third year.
Yeah, Exercise board, and you are also you're a speaker. You're the co-host of the Not So Breakfast Show, which everybody I know is enjoying. So it's a great little value add to the week. Chef, husband, and father. Does that pretty much cover it?
It covers it really well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Please feel free to fill in any gaps that are important to you.
No, that's a good summary. That's a good
Fantastic.
summary.
Fantastic. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you was, how Les Mills goes about bringing PTs into its organisation, and I'm aware that I think Les Mills requires some additional education once people come in from whatever their base qualification may be. Is that something you can sort of give me a bit more insight into and what that does for them, and as they join the organization?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, so we do I guess a kind of an upskill course on the realities of personal training, what it's actually really like. So you can get qualified on your 12-week course or your 6-month course or your 2-year course, whichever one. But we make everybody do a 3-day course, which we call 3D module. And it's really looking at what is it really like to personal train in a gym for real. So everything from lead allocation to generating your own leads to the reality that that perfect program that you want to take your client through. In reality, when it's 5:30 p.m. at the Auckland City Club, the chances of you being able to, go from exercise to exercise in that order, it just doesn't happen. So we look at how to think on your feet, how to adapt programming, how to do member engagement and client engagement so that people want to come back and see you again and not just delivering workouts. So that's really what the 3-day covers.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's something that everybody has to go through, right? They can't sneak in without having done that qualification.
That's it. So even if you've been a PT for 10 years in the industry and then you decide to come over to us, we just do this as the base. It doesn't matter where you are in New Zealand. If we bring you on from Dunedin to Christchurch to Wellington, we fly you to Auckland. We give you flights, accommodation, that's all included. We want to invest in you. We give you this great experience at our Les Mills New Market Club. And everyone gets just a chance to really connect with another group of trainers. So we just had 20 new personal trainers start the other day. So then they end up in their own little kind of network as well. And they can all reach out and connect. And I mean, you know how important that is for clients. For trainers that are new into the industry to have other people that are going through the same kind of thing.
It absolutely is, and it can be quite a lonely place if you aren't in a club or you're a solopreneur doing it yourself, wherever that may be. Even if you do have some time of your week in a club, but being connected to a group of like-minded individuals is hugely powerful and something I completely underestimated before I kind of found my little group. So it's great that Les Mills already kind of creates that for them so that they have that support because, being able to bounce ideas off each other and share challenges that they're experiencing, that's all the stuff that makes all the difficult things just that much easier to handle.
Oh, so right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed when I was checking you out online was there's an interesting description. It says that you've designed paradigm shifts in the Les Mills fitness departments in terms of how they run. And that just made me curious because, it sounds interesting and I'm curious, is that something that you can explain a bit more in terms of what that means?
So we did some, aligning of our fitness systems. So a number of years ago, all the clubs kind of had their own equipment suppliers going on. There was no real common theme to the way that we were building our programs on our timetables. even our personal training systems and the way the personal training managers were implementing them were a little bit different. So we started to look at what we could put in as a common thread so that we had a common member experience across all of our clubs. And also we wanted to make sure that people started well in our gyms. Most members drop out of a gym because they're not getting results or they start badly. That's usually two of the main ones. So if they come into a gym and they sign a contract and they start badly, they're less likely to be a member. If they aren't getting results, they're less likely to be a member. And so what we try to do is connect members with other members and with multiple departments. And that's really on the principle that no one ever leaves the gym because they have too many friends. And whereas traditional personal training is a little bit selfish in its nature. So a lot of trainers go, come and see me, only see me, don't do anything else. And we really broke that and said, do some personal training, but also do some group fitness and also work out on your own and also work out with a friend. And what that does for a personal trainer is it lowers the risk factor. So when I started personal training, way back in the day, you wanted people to see you 3-4 times a week. Like that was, nirvana. But the problem is when that person was sick, they would take 3 or 4 sessions out of your entire week.
Yeah.
So if you kind of think about the structure of your week, if you want to do 30, 40 sessions a week, you kind of want 30, 40 clients propping up that session pool. You don't want 15 clients propping up that session pool. And so we looked at the way personal trainers were working with their clients, and we helped them understand that even seeing someone once a week for a program, a check-in, and having them under accountability of a trainer is still a type of personal training. So it might be that 10% of your client base see you twice a week, 50% see you once a week, and then the rest of the percentages is once a fortnight, once every 3 weeks, once every 6 weeks, and you try and build your client base as wide as you can. That's safer for the PT, and it's much better for gyms because personal training for gyms is a retention tool. So if a trainer is actually only retaining 15 members, that's fine, but we would rather that they were retaining 60 members, 70 members, 80 members.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we started to really shift the thinking. And what we find overseas is usually group fitness is one side and PT is the other, and they just butt heads because everyone's fighting for member attendance. And most members actually only go to a gym about 1.3 times per week on average. But if you can get them to 2 times per week, they're more likely to stay for around 2 to 3 years as a member. So it's twice a week. It's not very much. You get them to 3 times a week, they'll stay around 5 years plus.
Really?
Yeah. So the whole kind of dynamic is to try to get multiple connections and multiple attendances because that is what gyms need. And like I said before, no one leaves the gym because they have too many friends, but most people break up with their personal trainer and then they break up with the gym as a way not to see their trainer anymore. So they kind of go, I don't want to see my trainer, so I'll stop going to the gym. And what we want them to do is go, I'm not going to see my personal training anymore, but I'm not going to leave because all my friends are here and I do all this other stuff as well. And my personal trainer was really cool about it. And we're just on a break. And I think too many trainers are trying to get married in a Tinder world with their clients, and it's like this obsession about only see me. And really the market is so big for just accountability and connection with members and getting them results. And you can get that a number of ways.
I like that. And did you get to the point where you were aware of those circumstances anecdotally, or did you guys have to do a fair bit of research to kind of go, okay, this is where we're at and this is where we'd like to be?
It was probably more, I was in the privileged position of getting to travel all over the world and seeing what was happening at other gyms.
Right.
And then kind of relaying that back. Is that actually a reality in our clubs? Is that something that we're experiencing? How could we do it different if we wanted to do it different? And I mean, it's no surprise that Les Mills is a group fitness club. 68% of our attendance is basically just to group fitness. And we have around, I think it's at the moment about 300 personal trainers that work across our 3 gyms, our 12 gyms. So there's a culture of PT, but there is a strong culture of group fit. And what I started to notice is the stronger the group fit culture was in the club, the more successful the personal trainers were because attendance is higher. And what you find in clubs overseas is when everyone's fighting for attendance, it actually doesn't increase the attendance of the club, you know, so suddenly people are only doing PT or they're only doing group fitness. And really when those two things work together, that's where you see the biggest success. And our operational manager, Brett, and I actually had a really privileged position to go and just travel. And we just went to New York for, I think it was around 7 days. And all we did is just walk the streets of New York, going to boutique gyms and Equinox. And so it was like Barry's Boot Camp, Soul Cycle, Flywheel, all of those ones that we've heard of. And we just worked out basically for 7 days and just, I mean, I'm 47 now. I think we were about 40 when we did it. And I remember this one club we went to, and it was, they'd rated themselves as New York's hardest workout. It's the Tone House is what they're called. And I mean, it was pretty funny. So we went in and we were like, I said to Brett, are we really going to do this? He goes, yeah, we'll give it a go. We'll be fine. So we went upstairs and it just had this big sign. It's like, leave your ego at the door. We were like, oh, that's not a good sign for a start. But we went inside and the lady said, like, the only real rule we have around here is if you can get through the warm-up, you can carry on for the rest of the workout. And I'm just like going, what have we done?
Yeah.
So we signed the waiver because everything in America is a waiver, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the next day we turned up and the warm-up was pretty simple. Like, it wasn't hard. They just had sort of like 10 hurdles and you started in the front and you were just trying not to get lapped by the other guys. So you know, run the hurdles, go to the back, run the hurdles. Then it would be run the hurdle, do a push-up, run the hurdle, do a push-up. You run the hurdle, do a burpee, and it just went for 10 minutes. And I just afterwards was just heaving, man. Like I was just dry reaching. But after that point, they just kind of let you go at your own pace and they just keep pushing you along. But yeah, it was just, you know, all these unique experiences and different ways of training that we were able to bring back and apply that from our gym floor to our PTs, to our group fitness model. And it's been highly successful since then.
Fantastic. Yeah. So it really was research based. It was hands-on, not just observational, looking at data. It was really getting in amongst it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. So I guess so going back to what you were saying in terms of the structure and the paradigm shift, that's been good for business as a whole, but it's also been good for the individual PTs as well, by the sounds of things, because you've looked at the way people are behaving and you've tapped into that to maximize it for everybody's benefit. That still leaves PTs as contractors, doesn't it? And they're still, they still have to be their own, business unit, as it were. What have you found that's made the individuals more successful as opposed to less successful? You've created this great environment to allow them to flourish. What would you say are those key components that you see the top performers as opposed to the bottom performers stand out?
Yeah, it's a good question. If I was hiring a personal trainer tomorrow, if I just had to take a punt on someone, it would be female personal trainer over 35 with a couple of kids, because they relate so well to the majority of the market.
Right. And,
I can find a whole lot of male trainers, young bodybuilders with a stomach like a cheese grater, there's heaps of them there. But that personal trainer that can really relate to a lot of where the market actually sits. So that as a demographic, that's good. It doesn't mean that the younger trainers can't be successful. That's not true at all. But they, if you're looking at who's spending the money and on PTs and what they're kind of looking for, that female trainer will always do really well.
Yeah.
We look for trainers that are really good at building relationships, not just delivering sweaty workouts.
Yeah.
Anyone can deliver a great workout, but to be able to do that consistently and build a connection with the person, because it is a relationship at the end of the day. This person has to want to keep coming back and training with you ongoing. And that is a specific type of trainer. You're looking for someone that wants to invest in people and help them get results. And then once they've got results, maintain those results and then turn those results into whatever the next goal is, or whatever lifestyle factor that they're after. And that's what we try to teach in our model. You've kind of got the basics from your qualification. You probably know how to swing a kettlebell. You probably know how to lift stuff. You know that stuff. So how do we then turn that into actual personal training, which at the end of the day is about accountability? Like that, if you strip back all the sets, all the reps, everything that trainers do, holding someone accountable to their results is actually what you do, and then wrapping that in motivation, because exercise is hard. Most of us like exercise because we were brought up with it, but for the majority of people out there, I use the analogy where it's like exercise is like Vegemite, right? If you like it, you love it, and if you hate it, you hate it. And it doesn't matter how someone presents that Vegemite to you. It's like, oh, would you like 2 weeks of free Vegemite for you and a friend? No, you know, I think what some people have learned to do is eat it by spreading it thinly and putting cheese on it. And that's kind of what group fitness is, right? It's Vegemite with cheese. It's basically taking something that's good for you and putting it in an environment that makes it more palatable. Yeah. And then you layer in personal training into that. It's the same. And personal trainers need to understand that their sessions need to be as engaging, because especially in the Les Mills environment where you could go personal training and pay, or you could go to Grit, the Trip, Pump, you know, Conquer, Ceremony, some of the biggest programs in the world. You've got to be able to deliver a session that's just more than a sweaty session. Like it needs to be engaging. It needs to build relationship.
Yeah, I like it. Then that stands out. You know, that's the soft skill, right? I mean, we kind of take it for granted that the technical stuff is there. It comes back down to those soft skills again. And through COVID, particularly, you know, our industry's been knocked about a little bit, to be fair, and we've had to adapt to that. How have the trainers in the bigger box gyms, though, yours particularly, how have you found? Has there been much of an attrition rate, or have people kind of been able to sustain their businesses regardless?
Yeah, I think the advantage of being in a big box is you are pretty protected, and protected in the way that if you're a solopreneur, like you said, you've got your own PT studio, then you've got the expenses, the rent, everything that comes with that. And I think a lot of PTs think their end game is to own their own studio. And they go from a big box gym where their rent was this big and their margin was this big to having their rent this big and their margins that big. Yeah. So when COVID hit, like, we were able to not charge our PTs rent. So we don't charge them rent if they can't use our facilities. So So their risk is lower from that for a start. We then encourage them, obviously, to pivot to online and start doing some sessions online. And Exercise New Zealand reps were great at also providing educational platforms around that, and we did our own too. What I'm encouraging trainers to do now is start that online pivot earlier. So one of the ways that you can do that is when you get your lead or your new client is do that first consultation via Zoom. Don't try and do it in the gym, because, I mean, you know as well as I do, trying to do a consultation in a gym is a nightmare. Usually you can't get the one office that may be there, or it's out in the reception area and everyone's listening in. Like, it's just not great. But if you do it like this, and this was our first consultation, we can do all the stuff, exercise history, we can do a risk analysis, we can do exercise pre-activity questionnaire, and then we can meet together and have that first experience live. But I've also got you used to meeting with me online. So that hybrid earlier is really good. And then you combine that with a great track like Trainerize or whatever you're going to use. That at the moment is probably crucial for PT. It's being able to pivot online and then live, online and then live. So, you know, for our gym, Les Mills On Demand has been like a massive part of our offering, being able to have our group fitness programs online for members. We obviously did the Les Mills and TVNZ partnership. Which was good for the industry as a whole, because all of a sudden people had never really been in a gym before got to, you know, exercise with their kids or do body balance in their lounge and stuff like that. Part of the new world.
Absolutely. Did that have a positive effect? As you say, I think that is good for the whole industry, but did that have a positive effect for Les Mills specifically? Did people say, oh, this is some of the stuff they do, I'm going to go and join?
Yeah, we did have a lot of people emailing saying, well, first, thank you for the fact that, I had something to do and my kids weren't driving me crazy for that little bit. So we did have that effect. And interestingly, we did have people sign up as a result of those programs as well. I think Les Mills, like any other club chain, has adjusted their business model, and every lockdown hits us hard, just like everybody else. But people are getting more used to the pivot in and out. And this is what I speak on a lot of panels overseas. And where clubs are struggling is some of those clubs are still in lockdown. Like my friend, he's in Orange County in LA. I mean, their kids haven't been to school in a year. So in some parts of the country, clubs haven't even opened again. And in some parts of the world, clubs haven't opened again. Some, they're allowed 4 people in their group fitness studio. It's so varied. Yeah. And what we're kind of showing them improving is live is coming back. People want connection. They want the live experience. There is sometimes a little bit slow to get back, but once you sort of start jumping in and out of lockdown, people aren't scared of coming back anymore. They've kind of overcome that. And now it's like, oh, I can't come to the gym for 3 days because Auntie Jacinda said I couldn't. Yeah. But now I can. And now I can't. Now I can. And that's kind of what's happened in New Zealand. Like people have got their head around how it works now. And in Australia, it's the same, and in some parts of the UK. So that's the thing to kind of, I guess, remember for the fitness industry, that although it will be hard and you struggle, people want live and they want connection, but online is now going to be just a compulsory part of your fitness offering. 25% of clubs worldwide had an online offering pre-COVID. 85% of clubs now have an online offering post-COVID. Wow. So yeah,
that's a phenomenal shift. Okay, yeah. So those, just going back to that introduction that you have when new PTs join Les Mills, is there a large percentage of, I mean, I don't even know this, but do you have instructors on the floor still who then kind of get to a point where they say, actually, I'm ready to be a fully fledged PT?
Yeah, no, we don't now.
No,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so basically we have our personal trainers. Yeah. And so if you come on as a personal trainer, you are straight in. We have a really easy way to start. I think it's $299 is what we call the license fee. It's just a commitment. Yeah. And then you get to come to Auckland, accommodation, flights. So everyone pays the same, but if you're out of Auckland, you get to come up. Sure. Then you get 4 weeks rent free, and then you get a whole lot of time at a heavily reduced cost. Yep. And then it slowly staggers up to full rent over time. Yeah. So it's a very easy way to start. And you've got a personal trainer manager at each club who's invested in making sure that you can get some leads and get support and get coaching and development. Yeah. And the fact that we had 20 trainers on their last course, there is a bit of a rise back to people wanting to get back into PT, which is great.
That's a good sign. So how many, typically how many PTs would a PT manager in a club be responsible for?
It depends on the club. So I think some of our clubs will have maybe 18, 19 trainers. Auckland City has like 60, 65 trainers out of the one club. Yeah. But on the whole, probably so that 20 to 30 would be a fairly standard average that a PT manager would be looking after.
And so they act as manager and mentor as well, I guess, in terms of, I mean, keeping them on the straight and narrow to what Les Mills requires, but also helping them progress.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're there to help you. And although it's a contractor model, and our only rules are, you need to wear the uniform, you need to use our branding, but that's basically it. You can charge what you want to charge. You can run up to 3 people if you want to. You can do one-on-one, you can do 1-on-3. You can sort of run it the way that you want to run it. So right. And then we provide upskills. So we provide, we pay for our trainers to attend FedEx every year in Auckland. Yeah. We do 2 national road shows a year where we bring over a speaker or a presenter as an upskill. Yep. And then there's just constant support there. And that's the difference between being in a big box gym and being on your own is, and I'll say this, like, it's a marketing thing, right? So when you're in the studio, you are constantly trying to go out to bring people in. when you're in a big box gym, everybody's already in. So all you have to do is just be on their radar. And some people have said to me, oh, I don't know if I'd go to a gym where there's 30 trainers. What about all the competition? I'm like, I'd rather be at a gym with 30 trainers than at the gym with one trainer, because there's enough work for one trainer and there's enough work for 30 trainers. So the perspective is different. And I know when you go into like a club like Auckland City and you just see people with personal trainers, it's normal to have a personal trainer. You go into a smaller box gym and there's one person with a PT and everyone else training on their own. It's normal not to. So
so you're walking into a culture where it's kind of the norm, and so as a club member you'd kind of go, oh well, I probably need to do that then. And they do. Yeah,
absolutely.
So you talked about them being able to train sort of in pairs or even threes with that one trainer. Are trainers allowed to subcontract and have other trainers working for them?
We don't do a subcontracting model. We just make it really clean right from the start. Sure. Here are the rules, and then sort of play within that. If you want to do small group training, if you want to do all that kind of stuff, we're not the right club for you. Right. If you want to do 1-on-1 to 1-on-3 and be in control of your finances and everything that you want to do with that, then we're definitely the club for you. Yep. And we also do 4 weeks rent-free per year. So that's one of the things that trainers struggle with, is how to step away from their business. So we go, you can have 4 weeks a year. If you don't want to take them, you don't have to. You just carry on paying rent. But if you want to have 4 weeks off, you can step away from your rent for 4 weeks and go have a holiday or a break.
Sure. Yeah, which is important.
Definitely. Yeah.
I was going to talk to you about sort of apprenticeships and that sort of thing. And I guess, it sounds like the support that you have in there is kind of is sufficient. It sounds like you've got enough support at the beginning. You've got ongoing training, and that ongoing training kind of sets your PTs up for success. So I mean, you may not want to share that in terms of how many people may leave in terms of PTs stepping away from Les Mills, but the retention rate would be pretty high, I imagine, based on what you've said.
Yeah, our retention rate is pretty high for our personal trainers. I think the average working life expectancy in the industry is about 2 years normally.
Right.
And it's usually because people get into it and not realize what they got into. So they got into it thinking they were going to train people, and what they realize is they're running a business and doing sales. And I think else. Exactly. And that's the reality of it. And that's why we are pretty choosy on who we take on. So we have I run a philosophy with all our managers, which is hard to get in but easy to start. So if you want to get in with us, we make you jump through a heap of hoops. You do an exercise competency test. You have to train a personal training manager. You have to meet with them. They have to like you. There's a whole lot of stuff you go through. But if we decide that you're the trainer for us and we want you, we'll make it really easy for you to get started, and you just get so much support. And that's rather than what I think a lot of clubs around the world do, which is easy to get in, but really hard to start. It's like, good luck, you're on your own now. Yeah.
So why? Yeah, it just seems the wrong way around, doesn't it? I guess you've probably already answered this, but if you're sending your trainers to FitX every year, then they're going to automatically earn the reps registration that they need to renew every year. Is there an encouragement for them to seek additional learning as well outside of that? Because kind of that would be enough anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of them will just use that as their once a year upskill, and that's cool. But a lot of the especially the newer ones coming through, there's a better culture for upskill, and I think with that, there is so many options now to be able to upskill, from online courses to YouTube, to the fact that reps do their roadshow twice a year. We do a roadshow twice a year, and the personal training managers get in-house. So we'd had the Wim Hof guy come and do his stuff at Auckland City, and of course that's CPDs as well. So there's a real ongoing, but there's definitely a divide between old school trainers that do enough to get CPDs to stay in the industry, and their clients love them, and that's what they do. But some of the newer ones coming through are really in that functional training, mind, body weight space. They're definitely upskilling. And I will say that's one of the things I think Australia does very well the culture for upskilling in Australia is a lot higher. I think the culture in New Zealand is a little bit like, I can do it on YouTube. But it is definitely changing, and that's because Australia's had that compulsory sort of registration and upskill a lot longer than we have. So, I love speaking at Philex over there. I think that's a great conference. Just, it's good seeing those ones.
Yeah. And talking about speaking, I think it was probably 2009. You were presenting, I think it was called PT Grow then, which is that roadshow. So that roadshow may have changed names and form, whatever. But I remember you talking. I think I was probably a year into the industry, kind of going shit. And I remember you talking about developing your skills, in developing your speaking skills. That was something obviously you were already doing. And doing it really well, but it just dropped. It sowed a seed in the back of my mind. I thought, why the hell do we need speaking skills? We're not speaking. But obviously, whether you're presenting to 1 or 100, there's still a method to doing it well, as opposed to doing it averagely. So I've got you to thank for that, because you've kind of, I've kind of followed that path, and you were very innovative. You had a mentoring program, I think, and I know you had a number of products, and I think I took advantage of most of those products. And they were different. They were a kind of it is out of the box, and I know that's something that you like to say in terms of your thinking. It was getting people to move, but with a different type of structure. They were reasonably traditional movements, but put together in a really different way that kind of go, I hadn't thought of that. Really, really creative. So I'm not just blowing smoke up your pipe.
It was a good time, actually, because I do remember doing a lot of those programs, and back when I used to do the podcast with Bevan and a lot of the speaking stuff, and that opened so many opportunities. I did the kids TV show for a couple 2 seasons for a couple of years, and I had a weekly slot on the Breeze for a while, and the communication piece is just so strong. And anyone listening, I'd say exactly the same. Like, if there's one skill is that you should double down on, it's communication. And if I can't decide who I'm hiring, I just always hire the best writer usually, or the best communicator. Because if they are the same in their skill set, you always want the best communicator. So it is a skill that you want to invest in. It's a skill that can take you all over the world. Been fortunate to be able to speak in so many countries now, and from online to live, and especially in the online space now, being able to just whip up content and do things like this, or do a podcast, is such a good place to play.
Yeah. I've got to ask you about the podcast. So what inspired the? It's great. I really enjoy it, because you guys just giggle all the way through it. It's hilarious. It brightens the day sometimes. What inspired the Not So Breakfast show? Where did that come from?
So I probably had a couple of wines, and as you know, Sasha and I are pretty much besties, and we've worked together for a long time. And I rang her up one night and just said, "Come on, Sasha, we've been saying we're going to do a podcast for you. Let's just do it." And she's like, "All right, you do all the work." And I'm like, "Sweet."
Oh, really?
You turn up and do the show. She goes, "Let's kind of make it like a breakfast show, but not so." And then I went, "I've got the name for you." And it kind of turned into the Not So Breakfast show.
Gotcha.
When we first started it, it was specifically targeted at people our age, so sort of in their mid-40s, going into their 50s. And we were looking at, how do you stay relevant in the industry, and not just in fitness? Like, it's definitely not a fitness podcast at all. How do you stay relevant? And what surprised us is we ended up with this really young listener base.
Oh, really?
So we keep getting these emails from people who are like, in their like early 20s, just saying they're loving the show.
Cool.
And so that's kind of made it change slightly. And we're now looking at, it's almost like an Advance Your Career podcast, because it's talking about all the business acumen stuff of leadership and business that you need to know to be relevant in conversations in your work. But often people don't tell you all of that stuff. And so that's really where it is. I think we recorded episode 28 last night. We're usually a couple ahead. And, everything from the one that's just on at the moment, which is the 3 skills you need for 2021. And one of those skills being the ability to recharge quickly. And Yeah, because man, I don't know about you, but we're all hanging out for these holidays at the end of the year to apparently top you back up to 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And one of the recharge skills is find something that you are excited and passionate about. And even if that's more work, it will still refuel you. And that's what the podcast was for me.
Yeah. I like that, because it's tapping into that purpose, isn't it? It's when the batteries are low, it's that sense of purpose that will get you through. And haven't always not everybody's tapped into that. And it's good. It does make you think. So I really appreciate it. I didn't know who Sasha was, though. It's funny because although I did. So I did Matt Church's speakership about a year and a half, 2 years.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I did that, and he was giving his books out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Cole Fink, Matt Church, Sasha Coe. So I didn't. Someone had told me who Cole was, and I was like, who's this Sasha guy? I didn't even know it was a lady. So I apologized, Sasha. And then the podcast popped up, and I went, oh my God, there she is. So
so funny.
Weird. It's kind of done this full circle, and of course, he mentioned her, of course, during speakership. So I knew more about her than I knew who she was. It was a strange one, but it's a great podcast, and it's small, it's digestible. You've broken it up beautifully. It's really entertaining. So get a lot of value out of that. I'm recommending it as many people as I can.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no,
good. That's good that you did the Matt Church course. That was a game changer for me.
Yeah,
I know for Sasha as well. It's it's amazing. He's exceptional.
He absolutely is. It was only 2 days in Auckland as opposed to 3 in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So it was a little condensed, but I tell you the value is huge. That whole pink sheet process and a whole bunch of other stuff is gold. Being able to do a little bit more presenting myself. So putting it together is there's a bit of a formula now.
It is. It's good. I did his speakership week. I was like in Melbourne. Sorry, in where was it? In Sydney, in Manly, and did the 3-day and then a 2-day, and then it finished on a 1-day. So the group started big, but then there was only 3 of us on the last day. Yeah, and it was it was so good, so good.
Yeah, it transforms, and he kind of says that, doesn't it? It kind of takes you from here to here in a very short space of time, and there's that pressure of knowing the difference between good and bad, and you're always striving to be better than you are. So I'd recommend anyone does that who wants to improve their speaking.
Definitely.
Have I missed anything, Ish, before we kind of round up? We've gone really well, in fact, overtime. Any question I didn't ask that I probably should have?
Probably just kind of as a bit of a closing statement to PTs. Don't be afraid of personal training in someone else's business and being like what I call an entrepreneur. You can be just as successful in someone else's business as you can be as an entrepreneur on your own. And often starting in someone else's business, it protects you, it gives you the skill set, it's low risk, you're in a walk away position a lot of the time. Then once you know what you know what you want to do, you've got your reputation. Then if you want to go out and double down online or in your own PT studio, do it then. But definitely at the start, don't feel it's a cop-out, because there's a lot of people making a lot of money around the world just doing it in someone else's business.
Sure. Yeah, that's a very brilliant point to end on. And obviously doing it at the Les Mills brand would be the place to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much again for your time, Ish. It's been great chatting, and hope to catch you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Bye.